We're going to be talking about something that just happened not too long ago. In fact, this article was put out on February 1st, so just a few days ago, at 5 a.m. Eastern Time. Title of the article is Biden administration wants credit card late fees slashed to $8. So, this is something that could quite literally change credit cards forever. Anytime you have a credit card and you rack up some debt, you are going to not only pay interest on that debt, but you also have the possibility to actually incur more charges like late fees on that debt, right? So for most credit cards, when you have maybe, let's say, $1,000 balance, $500 balance, whatever it is, but you end up being late on one of your payments. Now, not only is this going to ruin your credit score, but it's also going to incur a late fee, which is typically around $30. But the Biden administration is looking to actually lower these late fees a little bit more because they view it as predatory from the credit card companies and almost allowing them to want to have credit card consumers spend more money, incur more debt, which also in turn means incur more late fees. So let's read this article, let's see what the deal is, and let's talk about what we can do going forward and how this might change things. So, title of the article, like I said, the Biden administration wants credit card late fees slashed to $8. They proposed a rule recently that would reduce credit card late fees from roughly $30 to just $8, saving consumers up to about $9 billion annually, the White House announced on Wednesday. This rule from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, along with other actions like the White House urging Congress to pass a bill to crack down on entertainment, utility, and travel fees that hit many customers, this was announced in one of their councils. Quote from Biden says, "These unfair fees add up. It's a basic question of fairness. And with that, and with the help of the folks in this room, we're going to keep building an economy that's fair, an economy that's competitive, and an economy that works for everyone," President Biden said in the meeting. These actions build on Biden's efforts to eliminate or limit junk fees, which are hidden and unexpected customers may face. They also quote saying, "We worry that credit card companies are actually hoping that consumers are a day or two late so they can cash on fees. While it may be fair to charge customers for extra costs that credit card companies are incurring, that's not what we see here." And they say to come to this $8 figure, Chopra from CFPB analyzed current costs and found that the number now is five times higher than it used to be. So what does this all mean? Let's actually move on over to this article here on CNBC. Because one thing that my first thought on this was, well, not only does this seem like a good thing for the American public, right? You're saying, okay, all these people that are typically late on their payments are now going to have to pay about 4 times less, from 30 to 8. So on one hand, you might say that's a good thing. Okay, so now we have a little bit more relief and there's not going to be more debt incurred from all of the consumers out there. But the first thing in my mind was, let's see what the current debt actually is. So I look at this article right here by CNBC, and this was just posted yesterday. Title of this article is U.S. credit card debt jumps 18.5% and hits a record $930 billion. Whew. That's a big number. That's very big. And it seems like it is on the rise. Since interest rates have risen, we've been having credit card debt raise higher and higher as time goes on. So what does it say here? Let's see. So for most Americans, inflation and rising interest rates are a 1-2 punch. Since we're on the heels of another rate hike with the Federal Reserve, credit card annual percentage rates are already near 20% on average, which kind of fluctuate along with interest rates. And they're set to even climb even higher. At the same time, more consumers are leaning on credit to afford increasingly expensive necessities like food and rent. So, with supply chain issues, with inflation issues, food, consumer products, even services, and rent like housing is going to be more and more expensive. And what are people paying with? Credit cards. And what happens when they pay on credit cards? They incur more and more debt. And if the wages aren't necessarily going up to meet the requirement for all the inflation, well, now you have a really bad situation in regarding debt. And that's kind of what we're seeing here, 20% increase. So my first thought when they say, "Oh, we're not going to incur late fees, or we're going to lower those late fees," on one hand, I'm like, okay, we dropped the late fees a little bit. But on another hand, it makes me think, that's almost like you're incentivizing people to spend more. Now, you might be saying that's a little bit crazy. No, that's not what they're saying. We're trying to help the American public. But if you knew that if you were late on a payment, that maybe you don't care about your credit score. There's a ton of people out there in the 500s. They're not worried about it. They're renting and stuff like that. They're not using their credit for anything specifically. They have their one credit card and that's it. That would almost, to me, signal that, oh, I can keep spending. I might even be able to spend a little bit more because that late fee is going to be a lot less, which also in turn means maybe I can keep spending a little bit more for the things that we need because inflation is so high. And of course, there's also talk of forgiveness, like student loan forgiveness. Maybe there'll be credit card forgiveness. I don't know. There's a lot of different things, a lot of different factors going into this, and I don't necessarily know the outcome to it. It also says here, so that all of those things, inflation, food, and rent, and stuff like that, that helped propel total credit card debt to a record of 930 billion, which we just saw in the last article, by the end of 2022, which is a 20% spike from 2021. The average balance rose to $5,805 over that same period. So the average amount of debt somebody has on their credit card is $5,800. At nearly 20%, if you made minimum payments towards this average credit card balance, it would take you more than 17 years to pay off that debt and cost you more than $8,000 in interest. Whew, that's a little bit freaky. I don't like to see that. Especially considering right here, overall, an additional 202 million new credit card accounts were opened in the fourth quarter. 202 million in just the fourth quarter, led by originations among Generation Z, so 97 and on, or adults aged 18 to 25, and the tally of total credit cards hit a record 518 million. Oh man. As the number of credit card accounts in the US rises, more new customers are subprime borrowers, generally meaning those with credit score of 600 or below, like we mentioned. According to TransUnion, in part because of the flood of younger borrowers gaining access to credit cards, which is kind of our fault as well. And I see David. David said, all these people need our boy Dave Ramsey. I mean, yeah, if we just paid for everything with no debt, yeah, we wouldn't have this issue, but we're also having, record high in 40-year inflation highs with wages not necessarily inflating along with it, or at least at the same pace. Let me just make sure. I thought there was one more thing. All right. So that's the main thing. And I might bring this out for something else in a second. So that. Hey Recon Pro, how's it going, man? So this is a scenario. We have record credit card debt right now. We have companies like Affirm, you guys know the company Affirm, where it's buy now, pay later, are having record high deposits into their, or not deposits, but use of their services, and it's being reflected in their financial statements. Which means there's more and more people incurring debt, and there's more and more people using the buy now, like the old school layaway method, in which they're just incurring debt and they're just paying the minimum payment over even a longer period of time. Coupled with the fact that now they're going to start dropping those late fees, which is also going to in turn hurt the credit card companies by now you're eliminating $9 billion from just essentially 100% margin profit to those credit card companies, which is going to in turn hurt their balance sheet. It's also going to in turn hurt their stock price, and a lot more people losing a lot more money from a lot of different other means. So it seems like a deadly recipe for disaster. I wouldn't even be surprised to see a scenario to where, because you're eliminating these $9 billion in late fees that typically always occurred for a long time, having these credit card companies lose profit, which means maybe even raising interest rates, along with, having more rate hikes from Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve, putting that back onto the consumer, which we already have record debt, which means more and more people are going to have more and more debt and more interest on that debt so they can make up that gap. It just seems like a horrible situation. Horrible situation. And please let me know what you guys, got people around me, what you guys think about that. Let me just read the chat real quick. Calby, oh, what's going on? Calby's here. I should have sold a firm, lol. I'm down 75%. Yeah, man. Well, here's my thought. My thought initially was, well, with the late fees and seeing record high credit card debt, I would not be surprised to see a firm also at record high use. You know, any chance to kind of mitigate those minimum fees and to buy all the things that consumers want without having to pay it all upfront in cash. So I wouldn't be surprised that over the next few quarters that we start seeing a firm deposits or the use of a firm a little bit more often over the coming quarters. It looks like, I'm just looking at their balance sheet at the moment. It looks like their revenue has been fairly steady over the last year, coming in about 360 million a quarter, so racking in about 1.3 billion every single year. But let's look at the next. A firm's going to have earnings on the 8th, so I wouldn't be surprised to see an uptick in the amount of revenue they're earning. The only issue with that as well is if you do check out their operating income, you can also see somewhat of a steady trend line down, whereas they're kind of making even revenue or slightly higher revenue, but they're also having slightly even or even lower net profits. So you can see from last year at this time, they had a revenue of about 360 million, but their net income profit was negative 180 million. So they're essentially spending on all of their services about 500 million, only taking in about 350 million. That's not so good. I mean, a firm is going to have to use a firm to start buying more things for a firm. Buy now, pay later for the company. The following quarter was around the same, 350 million in revenue, but minus 210 million, which means there was a lot more capex. Following quarter, 250 million, even worse. Following quarter after that, 800 million, even worse. And then that was for the fiscal year. And then 2023 Q1, we're looking at around negative 262 million. So we kind of have this trend line down to where more and more people are using a firm, but they're losing more and more money the longer the business goes on. I'm not sophisticated enough to know why, but just seeing that trend line is scary enough. So you might have a situation where a firm is holding all of these debts that they can't necessarily pay anymore, especially when, like we said, they're using a firm more, we're getting more revenue, and you're losing to the bottom line. Again, a deadly recipe. You might have more and more people in debt. It's just too much. It's too much to think about. Whew. But I wouldn't be surprised to see the revenue keep jumping. And if that can turn, for Calby's sake, if that can turn to where they could actually become more and more profitable, then it could be, a better company. But it's a little scary at the moment. What do we got going here? Recon Pro. Hope everyone has a great weekend. Likewise. Sledge, I'll catch this on the watch back at the gym, but wanted to drop in and support your boy Sledge. Out. Or whatever he says at the end. Thanks, Sledge. Stan says, unrelated, but watching this on the flight, impressed that I can watch a live stream with only minor lag. Ha! That's pretty cool. Wow. Look at this. Anthony Venture at 10,000 feet or 30,000 feet in the air. Could you imagine such a world? Maybe we'll have to start like the Mile High Club podcast. That would be pretty cool. Oh, wait, me, Kevin already did that. Kelby says, have you heard about Apple's version of Affirm? 6 months, 0 interest and fees for Apple Card purchases? I thought they had some sort of system like that, so that's interesting. So now, can I ask you, Calvi, is that all for all purchases, or is it only for Apple purchases, and or is it only for 6 months and then you don't have access to that anymore? I'm guessing it's probably revolving on Apple products, but that would be interesting to see, because if that's so, Apple just has another vertical where they can capitalize in their market share, with all these people using. I got people playing freaking football behind me. Using their Apple credit card and kind of taking over a firm's market share from having that buy now pay later, as long as it is general. Most Delta flights are free Wi-Fi. No, I'm on Southwest. Yeah, Stan loves his Southwest. So that was my thought on this whole Joe Biden situation. Where on one hand it might be good that we're lowering late fees, but I think I think in a way those late fees are also like a way to keep yourself accountable, because if you lessen the penalty, you almost allow encroachment of that same behavior. If I know it's not going to be as bad, all right, I'm just going to keep spending, you know. But it all depends on the next couple of months. Jerome Powell in the Federal Reserve stated that they are signaling that there might be one more rate hike of 25 basis points, which is already kind of caked in, and that would happen in March. And then they're going to look at the data again. All of this data, by the way, inflation data, stuff like that, is all in the CPI, Consumer Price Index. So if we start seeing an uptick again in the Consumer Pricing Index over the next couple of months, you better be sure we're going to keep seeing interest rates rising. So a lot of people are kind of hedging right now, and they're kind of figuring and pricing in that inflation's almost done, and we're going to keep having a slow trickle down to like that near 5% and kind of stabilize. But if we start seeing, the price again of eggs or milk and just regular food and even restaurant spend and rent spend, which some of them aren't necessarily counted in the CPI, that you might see a lot more pain going forward for interest rates, which also means in turn for housing and for the stock market as a whole. If you got so Calby said Apple Pay Later looks to be any purchase can split. So Apple Pay Later, it can be any purchase split over 6 months, and it's not a promotional APR. Okay, so that's interesting. That's interesting. So that would in fact kind of confirm what we're talking about. So if a company that does not have the balance sheet and the cash on hand like Apple does, doesn't have the market cap that Apple does, Apple can essentially just become the new Affirm, but way easier. By using their own credit card, they're going to be incurring some fees from all the transactions you use with the Apple credit card, and they're also going to be getting late fees and stuff like that. So that'll kind of almost mitigate the damage that would be done by using the buy now pay later. But again, I would really like to see why Affirm is so not profitable. That would be really interesting to see why, and what Apple can do to change that, to see if they'd be able to fix things. Hey, Stan, $2 from Stan. Come on, can't do that, man. $2 from a flight. I'm just waiting for you to drop it down. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you, man. You didn't have to do that. But he did mention, he asked the question, Stan. He said, "What do you think about the communist spy balloon?" All right, so this is interesting because now it's kind of encroached on home territory. One of which these Chinese, right, communist spy balloons, they were flying over Myrtle Beach, which is pretty close to where I'm living now in South Carolina. It's about a 3-hour drive, 2.5-hour drive, and apparently it was shot down right over the Atlantic Ocean. Pretty interesting, you know. It's like everyone has a speculation, right? It's like, oh, we have one, like Calby says, there's one in South America. We have one that just flew over America in South Carolina. And the first thought is, oh, it's a spy balloon. But why? Why would there be a spy balloon when they do have access to drone technology? They do have access to some of the greatest technology in the world, uh, a lot of which that we buy. DJI drones. Why a spy balloon? It seems odd, and it almost seems like a distraction, if you will. Not looking to speculate too much on that, but it seems like it's a bit of a distraction. It's a little odd that would be some way of gaining access. Like you literally you have not to make every conversation about Tesla, but this company Xpeng was able to steal software from Tesla for their full self-driving software, right? They're able to steal that and get into the code. Teslas have been driving in America for the last 10 years and have been mapping out and visually seeing everything. That data apparently all could be stolen and has been stolen. Like, why not something like that? Unless it's already being done. I don't know. Why a spy balloon? Thoughts are probably something else going on behind the scenes. I doubt that is actually what it's for. if it's not for that, I doubt it's for being a spy purposes, but probably just to show like, let's just see what happens. You know, let's just test the waters. Let's throw this out there and let's see what happens. Oh, it got shot down. So now we know how far we can make it. Okay, if we have a drone, it'll probably be the same thing, right? Or if we just fly towards the inner cities, you know, closer to inland and not, you know, in bigger cities where you won't have an opportunity to shoot it down. Oh, it looks like we might be fine. You know, interesting, something to think about. And also could be scary, but I think it probably could be a means of just stepping over that line a little bit, because every time you step over that line, you kind of step a little bit further, you know, and then there'll be another balloon, or maybe there'll be a drone next time, or maybe it'll be just flying near the coast. You know, who knows? You know, I know there's certain sanctions with NORAD and being able to fly in certain zones, but wouldn't be surprised to see that. I also know that China, they just announced that they have a plan to invade Taiwan in 2027. I don't know. I've spoken to a lot of people from Taiwan, a lot of people from the mainland. This has been a plan to take over Taiwan since the 70s, since Mao Zedong was in power. Mao Zedong. Um, so I don't necessarily believe it. I just don't. And they know that. I think China knows that if they were to, I think China knows that if they were to invade anybody, I think it would be met with a force that they've never seen before in their entire life. Every single person in Taiwan is a soldier. Every single male that's 18 years old. They're mandatory. They have to be soldiers. So trying to attack a country of all soldiers will meet the same fate like Russia and Ukraine. I just don't think I just don't think it's important. And I have many friends in Taiwan that have mentioned like, yeah, for the last 20 years they've been just flying jets over. That's all it is. It's just showing, oh, we can do this and you're not going to do anything about it. Not like we're necessarily going to do anything, but just letting you know the fear is there. So I think it's probably something similar to that. Since I've seen the Chinese do this for a long time in Taiwan, I wouldn't be surprised for this to be also happening in America. Let's just send a balloon. Let's just send a drone. Let's just see what happens. Just shows that we're there and we have access, you know? You best be sure if we started sending drones over there, probably a different story. But who knows? Conspiracy Venture has entered the chat. Yes. I'm all about the conspiracies. I love it. I mean, I'm not going to go too far. I have other things that I could say, but I'm not going to go too far. David says show. What do you mean show? You mean it's all for sure? Show? The balloon? Hey, Richie. What's going on, Richie? It was probably full of hamsters and monkeys for some kind of high altitude testing. Rip hamsters and monkeys. What? Where'd you get that, Richie? Do you have some access to knowledge that we don't know? Is that a thing? Are there companies, scientists that are testing altitude limits for the animals or for the things and for the balloons themselves? That's a little odd. Why would they send hamsters and monkeys in a balloon? That's interesting. I'd like to hear. Stan says, "Huh, we'll see. It's supposedly for meteorology." Well, I would hope at this point that we're beyond balloons. For a nation that's gone to the moon, that creates rockets, that has SpaceX, that had flights since 1904, I would think that we're a little bit ahead in the meteorology field to start sending balloons out there. I don't know. We'll see. Uh, Calby says, an expert says based on the devices on the balloon, it looks to be a listening device. It's interesting. It's interesting. But like how powerful of a listening device? I mean, from what I heard, you can't even reach it from how far it was, like if you wanted to shoot it down. So how is something listening? Like how are you going to hear anything? I don't that doesn't make sense to me. Like why would it be a listening device? I would think the most important listening device would be to just have somebody come to America, get inside the government, and then just wear a wire everywhere. I mean, it's definitely happening, right? There's a lot of different ways. It actually reminds me of oh, Calby says it picks up cell phone and radio. Yeah. Okay, I could see that. I could see that. I would just love to know the purpose though. I would really love to know the purpose. And I would say probably the best thing that they could probably do. Well, I think in America it's banned, right? Huawei phones. I think they're actually banned in America, but some people get them. Kate says, that one politician dated a spy. Yeah, that's right. I did hear about that. This is how they got. I remember this reminds me of a story, and I believe it was in the mafia in like maybe the 70s. This guy named Vinny the Chin apparently was just somebody that was behind the scenes and all of the, I guess, money laundering and stuff like that. And he was like the head guy, but the FBI never could figure out like who is in charge of all of this. Like we think it's Vinny the Chin, but every day we see him walking around, he's got like a messy shirt on. You know, he looks like a slob. He just talks weird and he just walks around all day and he's thought to be crazy. Until one day they decided to rig all of the nearby paths that he would take every single day on his morning walk. And they would rig a car. I believe they even rigged like an animal of sorts. They put it on trees. And what they found along with his murmuring and muttering is that he would pass people on the street and actually mention all of the, I guess, mafia acts that would happen. I don't know exactly, but they would hear him talking about all of those things that on the outside would seem like just muttering and a crazy person, but they actually put those recorders in and they got to hear all of the stuff behind the scenes that eventually led to his arrest. Which is pretty interesting to think about. Let me see what else. What happened to Balloon Boy? Balloon Boy. Did you guys ever hear that story? My fiance told me once. There was a story. I wish I could pull it up. Matter of fact, I might be able to with this. The story was there was a kid that crawled into. There was a guy who was creating a balloon because I think he wanted to fly to space. Was that correct, or am I conflating? I don't know. He had a balloon in his backyard. His like 3-year-old son climbed into the balloon, and the balloon inflated, and the kid was flying across America. Um, ended up to be false and possibly created by the father just to have some news coverage for whatever reason. Let me see if I could pull this up. It was an attention thing. Hold up. Let me see. I need to figure out how I can just stream it right there. That would be awesome. Let's see if we can pull this up. Oh, it was a 6-year-old. Calby knows. Oh, Richie, you were just joking. Oh, it's an ongoing joke at my job. That's funny. Gotcha. Dr. Dark PK, I got an update. What's the update? Dr. Dark, did you get your first credit card? Dr. Dark, if you guys remember, he's 18 years old. He was looking last week to get his first credit card. He's an authorized user. He's got like a 750 credit score. And he was thinking about getting the Chase Freedom Flex. So I'll run this and then we can get an update from Dr. Dark. I don't know if you guys will be able to see this. Let's see. Calby says all pizza shops secretly work with the mafia. Is that true? Oh, let's see. Let's see if we can see this. It'll be delayed.
Into a box attached to the bottom of the balloon at his home in Fort Collins, and somehow it took off. After a nail-biting 2 hours, the balloon landed near Denver. But there was no box and no child, and a search began. Then late today, a surprise ending to this story. The boy was found safe, hiding at home. Ben Tracy has been following this incredible story from the very beginning. And Ben, what a relief, but still an awful lot of unanswered questions tonight.
How's that look?
Katie, of course, the good news is the boy is home safe, but the big question now is how did this bizarre scene unfold over the course of 2 hours when now we know the little boy was home the entire time?
Going at about 8 knots.
It looked like a flying saucer cutting through the air above Fort Collins, Colorado. Believed to be inside 6-year-old Falcon Heaney, moving at up to 25 miles per hour and soaring to at least 1,200 feet above ground. Those watching prepared for the worst.
Well, the fear is that you're running out of time.
As the drama played out on live TV,
this thing has dropped down now to 500 feet, which would mean
5, 4, 3.
Yet when the balloon made a miraculously gentle landing in a dirt field airfield nearly 40 miles outside of Denver.
It's been a safe landing.
There was no 6-year-old to be found. At first, it was believed the boy was never in the balloon. But then the sheriff's department revealed that Falcon Heaney apparently climbed into a box attached to the balloon. But that box was not seen in any of the video and not there when the balloon landed. The ordeal began when Richard Heaney, the boy's dad, was reportedly testing his weather balloon in the backyard.
So that's the
Falcon's
story.
brother told officials he saw the boy get inside.
That's ridiculous. Jesus, man. Like, could you imagine? You're just somebody, you just friggin' build balloons, and then you just make a story like that your son climbed into it. Oh my god. Balloon boy. The parents made up the whole thing. Yeah. And Calby says, Al Capone started Pizza Hut. Can't convince me otherwise. Is that true? So does that mean Papa John's is also part of the mafia? If all pizza shops are owned by the mafia? That'd be interesting. Not too bad. So that's Balloon Boy. So that's, I don't know. Maybe this is another Balloon Boy scam. Who knows? All right, let's see the update from Dr. Dark. Didn't get an instant approval until payday of $500 on Thursday. 2 days after, on Wednesday, I applied for the city double cash and got an instant approval of $1,500. Nice. Awesome. Okay, so you got your first personal credit card. I know you were an authorized user, but now you actually got your first credit card. Awesome. So the city double cash card is a very good card. I mean, it's like the easiest money ever. It's just 2% cash back on all purchases, no cap, no limit. That's amazing, you know. So you really don't have to think much. Like, oh, if it's dining, same card. If I'm going out, same card. Doesn't really matter. Groceries, same card. So that's great. That's great that you got that. Later I will upgrade the double cash to the custom cash. Yeah, as you get more, I don't know. As you get older, you'll end up spending a little bit more on a wider range of things. So the custom cash will probably help out at that time as well. So that's not bad. That's good. For sure. Absolutely. Interesting. So so as I mentioned from the beginning of this stream, this credit card debt issue is it's hard to say where exactly we go from here, because I'm kind of thinking in the terms of the stock market, and in terms of interest rates and housing as a whole. My thought process is, you know, because we also, along with having record high credit card debt, we also, at least within the last 6 months, I believe, also had like record margin loans. And if you're unfamiliar with margins, essentially when you have a stock brokerage account, you can take a loan from the bank, the brokerage, which is almost against your stocks, and use that to purchase more shares of a company or buy options and stuff like that. So up until like maybe 6 months ago, we also had record high margin, which is just people taking out loans. As the market has been crushed over this last year, obviously more and more people have to sell out of their positions. So this way they can't risk getting a margin call, which is when the bank calls you up and says, hey, you need to pay back your margin, all this money that you borrowed from us. So that's one way. So we saw, it probably did accelerate this large downturn in the stock market over the last year because of how much outstanding debt there was. Now, I wonder if the same can be said for credit card companies and credit card debt. I mean, if we just keep raising interest rates, that means there's going to be more layoffs, which also means that more layoffs equals you can't keep raising wages, the price of, hourly wages on people that are working, which eventually leads to layoffs. So less people working, less money that people are making, more debt, and more interest on that debt. I mean, this whole thing, not to be a fearmonger, but the signs are there that it could be an implosion, much like how margin debt affected the market. So I don't necessarily know how it will manifest, but I mean, we might start seeing situations where Credit card companies are carrying all this debt and they'll have to borrow more and more money, but they also have less revenue because $9 billion is lost to those late fees because Biden is proposing this new thing. I don't know. I mean, I could also see a situation where credit card companies will start selling off their securities and all of their lenders as well, since the banks kind of interchange money overnight in a lot of different places. Bonds will probably sell off because they'll end up selling off their bonds to raise more capital to keep that debt. Oh, it seems like a horrible mix of things that could possibly happen. But it's crazy because the stock market has been up. It's been up over the last couple of months. And a lot of people are kind of celebrating, I think possibly too early, considering the situation that everyone is still in this economy at the moment. Um, we're also seeing, along with the high margin, along with the credit card debt, we're also seeing the Federal Reserve adding liquidity, which is just essentially them buying bonds, them buying stuff on the market, buying treasuries, all that stuff. To I don't know what the goal is. There's a couple speculations that the Fed would keep buying up securities and buying bonds and adding liquidity to the market because one, liquidity moves markets. So as soon as the Fed starts buying, the market goes up. You've seen it. All these companies have jumped, between 20 and 50% over the last month. Um, especially like high tech names, like Apple, Tesla, and stuff like that. So in one theory is that they're actually adding more liquidity to the markets because they want to hit that debt ceiling even faster. We just hit another debt ceiling around 31 trillion or 32 trillion for the entire country. Some people are speculating that the more they hit that debt ceiling, the more they'll raise that debt ceiling, which means the more they can end up spending. So some people are speculating that they're just trying to hit that debt ceiling, and that's the only reason the market has been up recently. And as soon as we get back to, which they already say they're taking money off the balance sheet, which is quantitative tightening, that everything else is going to completely fall again for a second wave down. I don't know. I don't know what's to happen. I hope that doesn't happen. But history shows that in these environments, these high interest rate, high inflation environments, and if it's not fixed and we're not coming on a slight downturn now, that the market will have to be forced, or the Fed will have to be forced to start taking liquidity away from the markets, which we'll see a downturn in the stock market. And people say sometimes, they're like, well, why are you talking about the stock market? We have people like out on the streets hungry. Well, what do you think happens when the market loses money? All of those companies, people that have shares and stocks of those companies, the CEOs of those companies, they lose money. And those companies lose money. And that means more layoffs. So you're not going to have anything to buy because you're not going to have a job because the markets have dropped so low. Like, this is a fractal thing. The market drops, everything drops. It's crazy how intertwined we actually are. And it's not as intertwined as real estate is, which is interesting, right? I mean, we have prices of real estate dropping maybe 10 to 15% on average around America at the moment, depending on your market. But it doesn't necessarily change much. I mean, we had some fluctuations in lumber prices and materials, but not much that affects everybody on a day-to-day basis, other than they just can't buy a house now. They'll have to continue renting. And rent prices come up a little bit. So this is just me thinking out loud. So no particular order, but these are just some concerns I have at the moment if you're a person in the market, which I am. Dark says, don't know how long I should wait until I apply for the Chase Freedom Unlimited, and Calby recommends getting a checking account or something before applying for a Chase card. So he mentions that, I'm pretty sure Calby means to get a checking account, just establish a relationship with Chase first, so this way you can, be approved on your first go with Chase when you actually go for that Chase Freedom Unlimited. So definitely recommend always getting checking and savings accounts. And I see Dr. Dark stating he does have a checking and saving account already. So that's good. Which I mean, I would probably recommend just hitting as many banks as possible. Like, get a Chase checking, get a Capital One checking, even American Express checking if you can. All these different companies start building the relationship, and it can only lead to better things, right? You can get the credit cards, you can get the home loans, you can get the car loans. So I think it could all lead to good things. Wandering Doc says, do it live! We're always doing it live. And Danny Boy, my boy. Danny boy, you made it. Because now it's, we're a little bit later, right? It's 4 p.m., it's 4:42. So for you in California, like you said, it's 1 p.m., so 3 hours behind. Wandering Doc says, Anthony, I just finished a yoga class and some pull-ups. Gonna listen to you in the steam room. I just love it. I just love it when people listen to me in the steam room. I just love it. And then go in the shower, and then listen to me in the shower, and then listen to me when you go to bed, and listen to AnthonyVenture all the time. Hey, what's going on, Meds? I don't think I've seen you before. Is it true that the VentureX business is a thing? Yes, it is a thing. Matter of fact, we could do that live too. So, Meds is asking because we just recently had a new credit card hit the market, and that is the Capital One VentureX Business credit card. So let's pull it up. Let's see what the deal is. I heard some people in the credit card community talking about it. I won't care enough to make a video about it, but I'll here it is. Let's pull up the details here. Capital One's exclusive business travel card gets a sleek new name and look. I would like to see what it looks like. And then I could show you guys. But in the meantime, let's see. What can we find out here? Okay, so the VentureX business card. So here's the rundown. The VentureX business card is actually a charge card, which is way out of left field. Okay, so way different than the VentureX card, any other Capital One card out there, if I'm not mistaken. Is this I believe it's also the first charge card. Is that correct? Oh, Wandering Duck says it's been around for like 5 months. I wonder why it's only hitting like news now. Like some people are like, is this a thing, really? And people are surprised. Maybe you have more information on that, Doc. But it's a charge card, which means that the balance has to be paid in full at the end of each month. Unlike a typical credit card to where you actually have to carry a balance, or you can carry a balance month after month and just pay some interest. But charge cards are different. You have to pay in full at the end of each month. That's it. That's just how it works. This is how Amex cards typically work, like the Amex Gold, Platinum, and Green, all charge cards. So it's a charge card. Interesting. Otherwise, you'll be hit with a 3% late fee. But, like we said, I mean, I don't know how it'll switch from charge card to credit card, but if Biden's thing actually comes through, is it going to be 3% of whatever your balance is for the late fee, or is it actually going to be capped at $8 like Biden is proposing? Might be something to think about. Which is why I think it's like a trickle-down effect. Like, if there's less fees for all these credit card companies, well, one, maybe they shouldn't have had it in the first place, and they have inflated incomes and inflated profits. But, I mean, if it's been around for a while, you could expect some horrible hits to these credit card companies if that comes to fruition. This card provides access to benefits for business owners, so these include free employee and virtual cards, the option to sync transaction data with your accounting software, year-end summaries, and more. Okay, so QuickBooks and stuff like that. The VentureX Business earns travel awards. You'll get unlimited 2x miles on every purchase, as well as 10x miles on hotels and rental cars, and 5x miles on flights when booked through the Capital One travel portal. Okay, so pretty similar to the VentureX card. It also offers excellent travel benefits. You'll receive up to $300 in statement credits annually for travel booked through Capital One, and up to $10,000. So pretty similar. It's like exactly the same as the VentureX. It seems like there's no difference other than as a charge card. Still, what, $395 annual fee, right? And I guess the 2x earning rate. Interesting. So one thing I heard from Joshua Butler, and I might be wrong, but I believe you actually have to, it says you have to speak to a relationship manager in order to apply. Interesting. So how, I'm a little bit out of the loop here because I never really got any business credit cards. How do you actually get in touch with a relationship manager? Is it just if you have a business and if you have a relationship with Capital One, you could somehow speak to them? That's pretty interesting. I may have to do a little more research on that because I'm unaware. Let's see what everybody's saying here. John McKinstry, with most of credit cards that I have, I already have checking accounts and banks that issued the cards. Yeah, I mean, usually it's just easy, right? You get the credit card, get the checking account, so easy payments as well. Wandering Doc, hope you love it. Yes. Danny Boy, I just finished with 2 large transactions. I couldn't interact. All good. Appreciate you being here, so we can have this interaction. Wandering Doc, it is. I have the special invite application link for my business relationship manager. Ah, interesting. So Doc's got the inside scoop. Interesting. Dr. Dark says, what I was thinking was having Amex, Chase, Citi, and US Bank. That's a good amount of credit card issuers and banks to have. It's been around for 5 months. Yep, Cowboys advice, cool. Bonus is 250,000 Capital One miles, travel miles, if they're spending $50,000. But don't forget the spend will give you an additional 100K. I think that's the main difference is the sign up bonus. So it's 250,000 Capital One miles after you spend $50,000 on your business. I presume within the first 3 to 6 months. So that's interesting. And yeah, if you could speak to that, Doc, I would love to see. Doc says he did the process of applying for the Venture X business, so that would be interesting to hear from your perspective. Let me also look up. I mean, a 50K spend is pretty hefty, but I mean, 250,000 points depends on the. I mean, 250,000 miles depends how you use them, but I guess that's what, $2,500 or $5,000 back, something like that, depending how you do it. How you use those transfer partners. Let's see here. So Amex Delta. Thoughts on the new Amex Delta offers? Is that right here where you get a 50% discount on award flights? Let's see here. Delta introduces a 15% discount on award flights for eligible Sky Miles and American Express cardholders. Interesting. So now, starting today, which was a couple days ago, eligible Delta Sky Miles American Express cardholders now have access to Take Off 15, in quotes, a new perk that offers a 15% discount on Delta flights. I lost it. It kicked me out. On Delta award flights. This is great news for anyone with an eligible card because now your Delta Sky Miles will stretch a bit further. Yeah, so I guess if you're getting a 15% discount on award flights, you're almost like getting 15% more value, right? So that's pretty interesting. So I really don't have I don't have much info on the Delta cards. I mean, that seems like a good benefit, right? I mean, I have no Delta cards. I never even flown Delta. So I have very limited info on this specifically. But they mention here, just some quick math, you'll need fewer miles to book your next award. So that's the point. So if for example, if a Delta flight costs 50,000 miles, you only actually need now 42,500 miles in your account to book the reward. So you save 7,500 per 50,000 miles. So that's pretty interesting. I think that's good. I mean, any more value that we could possibly get is great. I just hope it's not on the back of, we found out that so many people are using this that we actually have to raise the annual fee, and then there you go, you're paying the difference again. Like if you save 75, I guess dollars, if it's 7,500 and one point whatever, then they raise the annual fee $750, especially on like that platinum or the that highest version. I would think that's not great. Let's see here. Forrest is late, but he made it. What's going on, Forrest? Doc says, same as personal Venture X, only different, doesn't report to personal credit, and it's a charge card. So it doesn't report to your personal credit. Okay, so that's good. Richie says, it still only shows the Spark Cash and Spark Miles on the website. Interesting. I could do a quick look for you as well. But I don't think I did see it either. Well, actually, like Doc says, you actually have to get in touch with the business relationship manager That's probably how you have to do it in the back end kind of thing. We got to talk to them to be able to get it. Recon Pro says, should I open an account with US Bank before I apply for one of their credit cards? Yeah, typically typically everybody would recommend that. I mean, it's the easiest foot in the door, to so to speak, to get a relationship with that bank before you actually, go to apply for one of their credit cards. This way, they have a little bit more trust in you. Maybe put a couple dollars in there to show that, you're building that relationship with them. And above all else, it just gets you familiar with their services. So maybe if they offer special things like loans or um, behind the scenes insurances and stuff like that, it's good to just get familiar with their bank first and foremost, because maybe you find some stuff out along the way. You're like, oh, I don't even want these cards anymore. Maybe you look at certain things. So get the bank first, get the checking account, savings account, as long as there's no fees. Make sure there's some accounts out there that you have to have a minimum amount, like maybe you need to carry $1,000 in the account, otherwise they charge you a fee every single month. Or if your revolving balance drops below because you're paying bills, just make sure. I believe US Bank actually does have some stipulation like that. It's either their checking account, I think it's their checking account, where you have to have a minimum amount of certain amount of money in there, or they charge you like $5 every single month for like a monthly maintenance fee and stuff like that. So make sure there's no fees, so you don't have to worry about that. But otherwise, if it's free, yeah, get the account and then go to sign up for the card. Typically about a month later, wait about a month so you're in their system completely. Calby's going to do a video about that. Awesome. Can't wait to see that. Wandering Doc says, did the entire process and have the application link. Haven't applied yet. Should I do it tonight? Live? I mean, Doc, if you want to go live, then sure. That'd be funny if I got you on here and we did it together. That'd be wild. Which we probably could do that, if you wanted to. I mean, Doc's wild though. Doc's got some crazy stuff going on behind the scenes. So, he can afford 50K for the sign up bonus, probably. John McKinstry, U.S. Bank is known as a relationship bank, so it might be easier. Yeah, like we mentioned, yeah, get that relationship. Delta Platinum is the way to go, Calby, in your opinion. Why do you think the Delta Platinum is the best? Please give us your thoughts. Joshua Butler coming in hot, saying, hello. Hello, is anyone there? Hello, Josh. He's here. He's here, everyone. You guys should check out his shorts and his Instagram reels. He's got some crazy ones posting. Joshua at Joshua Butler on Instagram. Go check that out. Probably TikTok, but I'm not sure. David says, I applied for their bank account and got denied. What? How'd you get denied, Dave? Man, what's going on with you? David always has. I feel like you have like really bad luck. I don't know why. This is like the first instance of it, but I just feel like in everyday life, like things just sometimes don't go right for no reason. Let me know if I'm right. That's funny. Man, I don't know. I don't know why you got denied. You say maybe it's because I'm in New York. You think they're discriminating because you're in New York? I mean, I would discriminate against New York, but only because I'm from there. But I don't know. I got a U.S. Bank checking account. I think I did that when I was down here, though. Yeah, I did. Interesting. Rishi. What's going on, Rishi? Nice to see you here. Any domestic vacation ideas for the spring? Domestic vacation ideas for the spring. Well, I need a little more info, right? So, are you just looking for vacations? Like, that's it? Like, you're not worried about maximizing points and like credits and stuff like that? And if so, if you're just looking to vacation, any recommended climates? Like, do you want skiing, or do you want Disney World, or do you want like summer beach, or do you want calm vibes? Like, what are you kind of looking for? Because then I can give you a couple spots that might be worth your while for vacationing. And Calby just goes ahead and says Nashville, Washington D.C., and Chicago, Illinois. All right, I'm sorry. Don't go to Chicago and don't go to D.C. because you're likely to get shot in both of those places. I'm sorry. Calvi hates when I say that because he's like, dude, there's no crime. What are you talking about? I'm just hyper aware. All right, I can't even close my eyes for like 3 seconds in public because I just like I'm always worried that there's someone gonna attack me in the car. I'm a little bit paranoid, but I think I wouldn't go to those places, man. I think Nashville is safe until after midnight. That's when things get a little bit more rowdy. Um, you mentioned Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I haven't been there. Calby's been there. I think that's probably a good place. I have a good feeling about it. Uh, Honestly, I really like the Outer Banks. I mean, I was just there recently, but the Outer Banks is it's such a calm feel. There's not like a lot of things to do, but the beach is where it's at. I mean, the beach is anywhere you stay in the Outer Banks, the beach will be 5 minutes from you. It's a tiny little area. Um, so I like that for that reason. There's really like and like it's not a big place. Like there's small hotels, motels, stuff like that. Matter of fact, it would be funny to pull up the actual map of the Outer Banks because when you look at it um, on a map, it's actually wild how skinny it actually is. Let me see if I can pull that up and show you guys. Almost got it. Come on, look. Oh god. All right, let's do this. We're moving everything. I think you can see that. Take a look. Take a look at this little. Take a look at this little tiny strip of land that is the Outer Banks, right where that red dot is. It's like you have Virginia above it, and it's in North Carolina, and you literally just this tiny little bit of land, which is absolutely insane. I mean, my God, even if you zoom in, it's tiny. But one thing you could do in the summertime that's here is usually this is like mid Outer Banks, but when you come up this way a little bit towards the beach, this is where the wild horses are. There's actually wild horses that all live on the beach. Wild. So if you have like a Honda CRV or something all-wheel drive and a truck that has like clearance of like at least 15 inches, then you'll be good. Get on that beach and go on the dunes and just drive all the way to like the Virginia border, and you'll literally see just wild horses running around. Sometimes they're a little bit hard to see. They hide in the little dunes, but if you find them, that's fun. That's a lot of fun. We did that in the summer, and and that was pretty wild, you know. And then along with that, there's also some great restaurants and whatnot. That's you know, I just like it there. Bit of a special place. Yeah, I like having this thing here. Very easy. Let's see what we got here. Joshua's thinking of doing New Hampshire in May. Really, what's in New Hampshire? The only thing I know about New Hampshire is that it's the only state in America, all 50 states. It's the only state that has no seatbelt laws. You could literally drive in New Hampshire with no seatbelt and never get a ticket for it from the police. I don't know why you wouldn't put the seatbelt on because, you know, injuries. But it's funny because if you actually look at their state motto, it's live free or die. Not die hard. It's just live free or die. So really, New Hampshire's like, we don't care about anything, man. I bet, you know, like they should just put the autobahn there. Like no speed limit, no seatbelt laws, live free or die. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, brother. And then you pull out the cowboy hat, even though it's in the north. So that's a good thing to know. You don't have to wear seatbelts there. DC is great. I live in the DMV area. Calvi says I just left. He's looking at go back. Go back to DC. What are you, crazy? John McKinstry checking back in with David about the U.S. Bank rejection. I think New York is out of the footprint of U.S. Bank. A back door into that bank is if you have an insurance through State Farm or you can open an investment account with U.S. Bank. That's okay. So that's some good info, John. Thanks for bringing that up. That's interesting. So U.S. Bank. So New York is actually out of the footprint, so out of the range that U.S. Bank likes to deal with. But you're saying that if you have insurance companies like State Farm, you could actually have an investment account with U.S. Bank, which I guess gets your foot in the door, and then you could open up everything else. That's interesting. Huh. Wow. Back to some vacation. stuff. Forrest Perry says Myrtle Beach is always a good choice. Going there myself in July and planning the point spread now. Huh. Yeah, Myrtle Beach. I have not gone directly to Myrtle Beach, but I went to Charleston. And I will recommend Charleston as well. I mean, Charleston is it's definitely I love it for anytime I go to a new place, and I recommend this to everybody. Anytime you go to a new place, go on Airbnb and search by experiences and then search tours. And what you can do is you can just look up anywhere you go. So Charleston, find a tour guide. There's always going to be like a historical tour guide, and you can, it's usually like 2 hours walking tour. Sometimes they put you on a bus or a golf cart, but I like the walking tours because you get to appreciate things a little bit more. Um, and you really get to learn the history of the area. So that's one thing that we found in Charleston was just immense history, like an insane amount of history through, a lot of like supernatural stuff. Like there's a lot of ghost happenings that happen there, and a lot of history with pirates and Blackbeard coming through, and a few other things. And there's some just amazing historic sites to go to, plus some pretty good food. I mean, everybody likes to eat in Charleston. We found some good places, but ones that I can't even remember at this moment. But Myrtle Beach is interesting. I would like to go there too. But again, I just heard there was a little more crime there, so I'm always so risk adverse. Car is locked. Hilton Head is also relaxing. Hilton Head, yeah. I met a few people. I was at a realtor conference recently. I met a few dudes out in Hilton Head. And those dudes are always like so relaxed. I don't know. They just have like perfect skin. And you're just like, hey man, I'm just coming out here and we're just talking about some real, they just, they just seem like very, very calm people in Hilton Head Island, which is again like towards Charleston, South Carolina. Calby says he's gonna catch a horse. Yeah, man. If you ever go to the Outer Banks, try to catch a horse. I mean, you don't want to do that. I think there's actually like laws protecting. I think there's like fines and stuff. You don't want to do that. Josh says probably check out Mount Washington and do some hiking. That's interesting. New Hampshire. I never really thought about New Hampshire as like a destination spot. And Calvi says, Anthony, you should check out Gatlinburg, Tennessee. Pretty sure you'll like it. Yeah. What's over there? Is that like a historic site, or? I mean, we're gonna be going to Nashville at some point soon in the future. I want to do a lot of different things. I want to do a tour again. I think Nashville's great. I'll be going there 2 extra times this year because I want to go see Graceland, place where Elvis bought that expensive mansion for him and his family, and where he eventually did unfortunately pass away in '77. So I want to go see that, and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All pretty cool places there. So I don't know. There's a few vacation spots. So I would say, yeah, Charleston, Outer Banks, Nashville, maybe Gatlinburg, like Calby says, or Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It depends where you are too. I think if you really want a low key place, we've always gone to Cape May, New Jersey. Cape May is very, very relaxing. Everybody's super nice and good looking, and it's right on the water. Good beaches there, very clean. I like Orlando. I like going to Disney. We're Disney adults over here, so that's always good. A lot of different places, but I can't wait to explore a little bit more. Honeymoon kind of place, amusement park, interesting. So that's interesting. Okay, a lot of different places. Any questions? Any questions for before I do eventually get off? Because what did we go into today? We talked about Biden debt, credit card debt, and Biden trying to reduce it from $30 to $8 for all late fees on credit cards, how that may affect the stock market, record credit card consumer debt, all that stuff, how that can affect the market, some vacation spots, some credit card stuff. Any other questions out there? Didn't want to make this one go on super long because I do have to go somewhere after this. But would love to hear some questions from the group. Calby said, what's your favorite animal and color? So favorite animal is a rhino. I don't think I have one with me. Animals, I mean, a rhino is awesome. Rhinos are awesome because they're like, you know, well, they're pack animals. They actually do travel in herds. They're they're the animal kingdom's natural firefighter. So you could literally like watch rhinos see fires in forests and they will stomp it out. So they're actually just natural firefighters. They're good people. They deserve like a pension and some money. Which by the way, I had this idea a couple of years ago. Remember when there was like a lot of fires happening in California? And uh this is so off topic, but it's fun. I'm having fun anyway. Hopefully you guys are too. There was a lot of fires in California. They said that it was started by maybe slow burns. They said it was started by terroristic lasers, or it was just the dry weather, um, and the droughts and stuff like that. But my plan was, I was like, look, if there's a huge fire out in California right now, dude, just go to Africa and import like 100 rhinos, and they will stomp out that fire like immediately. You just see them and just stomp out every single fire out there. Like when I learned that they're firefighters by not by trade but by nature, I was like so impressed. Plus, they're like one of the biggest animals in the animal kingdom, but not the biggest. They're also not like super aggressive, but they're like, I don't know, really prideful. It seems like if you have like a pack of lions a pack of lions trying to attack a rhino, like he'll house all of them. Like he'll turn on a dime, and they have some of the lowest center of gravity of all animals, so they can actually turn on like a dime. Like they can really like they have really good traction and all that stuff. So that's why I love rhinos. Favorite color? I don't know. Probably like I don't have my thing. Probably gold. I like gold a lot. Gold's cool. Um, yeah, I think maybe gold. Yeah, yeah, I think so. I think so. Not too bad. Hmm. What else is going on in the world right now? I really just wanted to cover those two things. Oh, okay. So you know what? I went to a realtor conference recently to get into some more money stuff. Went to a realtor conference recently, it was in Columbia, South Carolina. All the realtors in the Realty Association all met up to learn more about the markets, to learn more about leadership. We had economists come in, we had some senators come in, so there was a lot of different people, and we got to meet a ton of different people. But one of the things that was interesting was they had a lot of different parts about short-term rentals, so like Airbnbs and rental properties, and they talked about housing in across America. And what they found was, I posted this to my Instagram, so if you guys aren't following, check it out there at AnthonyVentureRealtor. What they found was um, over the last year, housing prices or the amount of houses being sold was about 15% less, so that we had a little bit more houses on the market, even despite people not selling because of high interest rates and people not buying because of high interest rates. So it was about 15% less homes being sold in 2022, but they also saw an increase in the home price. Like we saw so many markets have ballooned since 2020 for real estate. So it was almost like this net default effect that happened where it was like less homes being sold but higher prices. So people were kind of, agents were making the same amount of money and people's wealth were kind of essentially the same out there and in accordance to that. But I would love to pull up that picture. But they also mentioned that along with those statistics that they actually foresee this year to having pretty much standard, even a slight decrease in home prices, so maybe another 5%, something like that. Um, and probably no more homes sold. So it looks like they're planning for uh, more homes to stay on the market longer, and for them to come down slightly, but not as dramatic as a lot of people do think. Another thing related is they were mentioning interest rates and what they were projecting out. They were projecting that from the high of around 7.5% interest rates, which is what we hit pretty recently, to about now where we're hovering around that 6% range, like 5.5 to 6.2, like around there for most lenders out there, conventional FHA. Um, they are starting to project that those interest rates are actually going to stabilize around the 5.5% mark. They actually mentioned like the days of 2 to 3%, or even a little bit more than 3% mortgages are like long gone. Like they were pretty firm that we're not going to hit 3%, uh, mortgage rates anytime soon in the near future, and they were pretty dead set like, oh, we're going to have a standard of 5.5% over the foreseeable future. So my thought was when I heard that was that, well, wait a second. If you're going to have a stabilized rate of 5.5%, and that's going to be the new normal, right? What's going to happen is right now we're having home prices come down a little bit, right? Like we mentioned, 10 to 15% depending on your area. Less housing inventory because a lot of new construction homes have paused construction because of how expensive materials were and the shortage of demand of people wanting to buy houses because rates are so high. But what we might start to see in the coming years is this stabilized effect of 5.5% on all interest rates on all homes. But the new generation's going to start buying, Gen Z, people who are maybe 20 years old right now, maybe 21, looking to buy their house by 23, 24, 25. We might start to see them be like, okay, well, 5.5 is just what I've always known because, that's what it's been since I was 18, 19, 20, right? So you can have this whole generation of new buyers coming in with new money, whether it's online, work from home, stuff like that, not even caring about the 3% range, and they're gonna start bidding up house prices. So you might have this weird situation where house prices kind of decline for the next couple of years, and these new buyers come into the market and pay that effective 5.5% as the new average, which will in turn lessen inventory and raise housing prices again. So if we extrapolate that out to the future, I mean, what do we see? I mean, we see higher home prices and higher interest rates, which means higher total payments for new houses. There might be a situation in the future where renting does just become more cheap. It just becomes cheaper to rent than to actually buy a home. Um, for some people, it depends. I mean, if you're trying to build the equity, if you're trying to get the appreciation, all that stuff, I don't know. This is just something I've been thinking about recently, but especially since all the people that remembered, like in my age range and a little bit older, remember those 3%, it might take them a while to actually acclimate to the 5.5% of the world. I mean, we've heard this from our parents, right? They all state like, oh, in the early 2000s, late 90s, I mean, we had interest rates in like the 10 to 15% range. I mean, even in the Paul Volcker era in the 80s, right after that crash of 87, interest rates, they rose all the way to about 20%, like crazy amount. So of course, bank accounts were giving that amount as well, so it kind of mitigated, but just some food for thought. Um, one other statistic too is that right now, registered with the NAR, which is the National Association of Realtors, there are 1.6 million real estate agents, I'm one included, out here in South Carolina. But that 1.6 million across the United States, which I thought was low. And they're mentioning that there's actually so many agents that got licensed in the last couple of years that now that they see that this market has turned and that now interest rates are rising and less demand and less people buying houses and less inventory and less people selling because now you have to buy another house that's more interest rates, that realtors are going to start quitting. They actually project out that a lot of realtors are going to start quitting because it's going to be like, well, I can't have a full income because nobody's buying. I can't help anybody. I don't really think that that's the case. You're always going to be able to find somebody that needs a home. Um, so I just thought that was fairly interesting that real estate agents will find that this environment is so rough that you're going to have more and more of them leave the business altogether. Because I mean, out of those 1.6 million real estate agents, I wouldn't be surprised if at least half of them are part time, where they have a full time job already. So it won't. It's not out of the realm of thought that they would just say, I don't even want to deal with this side hustle anymore, this part time thing. But for those of us like me who are full time, we're gonna be in it, and we're gonna have a good time when people are interested. But all right, that was everything I pretty much wanted to cover. So like I said, recap: the Biden $30 late fee for credit card debt is now going to be reduced to $8 possibly. Who knows if it'll pass. That could have shockwaves to now $9 billion is erased from the balance sheet of many, many credit card companies. So this could lead to less profits, less operating margin, which also means in turn they might raise interest rates for all credit cards for consumers. It also means it's going to be a trickle-down effect to the stock market to where less income, less operating profit, less margin means lower and lower stock price because the EPS goes up. I mean, the EPS goes down. I mean, the gross margins go down. Which means if the market goes down, the rest of the market goes down, and then people have less money to spend. So it's a lot of those things. Talked about vacation stuff, talked about some credit cards, talked about my favorite animal, and we talked about the communist spy balloon, right? So a lot of different things. I wanted to make this a little bit shorter because that's all I really wanted to cover. But thank you guys for watching. Thanks for being here. I'm going to go run and do something. And I think I'll be here. I think 4 o'clock's a good time. I might just be here 4 p.m. every Saturday from now on. So leave a like, subscribe if you're not already. Yeah, have a great day. Thanks for coming by, everybody.